In the heart of modern Lagos, between the morning honk of Okadas and the lull of the Atlantic, lived a young man named Tunde, a prince by birth but restless by spirit. His father, Oba Adebowale, ruled a part of Lagos where tradition met high rises. The palace had Wi-Fi and a throne carved with ancient proverbs. Tunde had every comfort a royal life could buy: fine shoes, tutors in math and law, and a private driver who could weave through Victoria Island traffic like a seasoned surfer. Still, he felt the city's great harm pull at him. "There's something Lagos keeps to itself," he told his friend Aisha, who sold akara at a stall by the bus stop. "I want to know what the people know." One rainy afternoon, Tunde slipped out of the palace. He rode a crowded danfo, sat on crates, and listened. He watched market women trade loudly and bus drivers bargain like kings of the road. He noticed how neighbors shared umbrellas, how a mechanic lent his tools without counting coins, and how children split a single orange into tiny, grateful pieces. On the third day of wandering, Tunde met Mr. Bayo, an old fisherman who mended nets under a corrugated roof with the sea as his soundtrack. Mr. Bayo saw the prince's fine shoes and smiled without surprise. "A fine pair," Mr. Bayo said, tapping the leather. "But tell me, son of a king, what do you carry in your pockets?" Tunde emptied them: a palace coin, a notebook full of plans, and a small silver whistle, a childhood keepsake. Mr. Bayo nodded, then reached into a battered crate and handed Tunde a worn nail and a scrap of rope. "Take these to the mechanic on Oho Street, not the one by the bridge. Tell him to fix the blue taxi with the torn mirror. Don't pay. Tell him to keep the nail and rope for a rainy day." Tunde obeyed, puzzled. The mechanic fixed the taxi and refused payment. A man from the taxi made tea for everyone while the mechanic mended. A small crowd formed. A stranger who needed help lifting a heavy box suddenly had many hands. Days turned into weeks. Tunde learned how a single act of help rippled. A repaired taxi meant a trader reached the market on time. The trader's children had rice for supper. A grateful mother brought a hymn to the fisherman, and the fisherman's son found a lucky apprenticeship. Back at the palace, Tunde started a quiet habit. He returned with small odd jobs paid for with the silver whistle, a repaired shoe, a fixed radio, and watched the favor spread. The palace guard noticed. The courtiers whispered. "What is the prince doing?" they asked. "Playing at charity?" They scoffed. Then one evening, a storm arrived that the city had not expected. Lagos became a river. Roads disappeared, electricity faltered, and palace walls were slick with rain. The Oba huddled with advisors, worried about communities the palace trucks could not reach. Tunde stepped forward, not with orders, but with one request: send our jeeps and the men who know the streets, but send also those who know the markets, the fishermen, the drivers, the women with umbrellas. We must go with people who already move through the city like it's blood. The advisors balked. It wasn't the proper way for a palace to operate, but Tunde had learned Lagos' secret. He walked into the rain, and the people he had helped, the mechanic, the fisherman, the danfo driver, Aisha with her akara basket, answered. They moved together, royal jeeps alongside danfos, palace lanterns beside street lamps, palace cooks sharing stew with rescuers pulled from flood boats. They rescued a family from a rooftop because a market woman remembered which house had the loose tile. They found a child because a driver remembered the exact song the child hummed that morning. They distributed supplies because an old fisherman taught the palace cooks how to cook rice that stretched for many mouths. When the waters finally receded, the Oba looked across the city and found something different. The palace had not saved them alone. The city had, because it was led by people who listened and moved with the people, not above them. Oba Adebowale embraced his son and asked, "You have been to the streets and learned what cannot be taught in a throne room. Tell me, what did Lagos teach you?" Tunde handed the Oba the whistle. "Lagos taught me that power is not the weight of the coin you hold, but the number of hands willing to lift the load with you. The king who walks with his people never walks alone." From that day, the palace changed. Meetings began at dawn with market women. Palace letters were stamped with a small fish, a sign of humility given to anyone who taught a lesson. And Tunde kept wandering, but always returned with new neighbors, new friends, and new stories. Because he had learned the secret Lagos had long kept, that in places where life is busiest, generosity is not an act, but a language everyone speaks. And the moral is simple. True power grows when you walk with people, not above them.